"You're not a leader. You're a loser with a keyboard." That's what he told me. Right there in the conference room, in front of the entire management team. I didn't say a word. I just stared at him, memorizing every twitch of his smug smile. That was the moment I knew I wouldn't just leave. I'd return. Not with a resume. Not with a speech. With an offer to buy the whole damn building. I still remember the exact color of the carpet in that room. Dark gray with a red trim. Funny what sticks with you when you're being humiliated. I was seated at the end of the table, laptop open, spreadsheet glowing on the screen. I had just walked the team through the latest system redesign I'd implemented. Reduced errors by 43%. Boosted processing speed by 22%. I thought I'd done well. But when I looked up, everyone was silent. Then came Nathan. He stood up slowly, adjusted his stupid designer tie, and smiled like a villain from a cheap movie. "You're not a leader," he said, loud enough for the back row to hear. "You're a loser with a keyboard." Then he chuckled. A few others laughed too, not because it was funny, but because in that office, laughing with the boss was survival. I didn't respond. I closed the laptop, slid it into my bag, and stood up. "Is that all?" I asked. He smirked. "Yeah, that'll be all. You can clear out your desk by 5. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. But inside, something splintered. Not just because of the insult, but because of the silence. I had poured 3 years into that place, stayed late, came in early, trained interns who later became my supervisors. And when it all turned on me, no one even blinked. That's when I realized the game was never about work. It was about perception. And perception was something I'd been too quiet to control. Until now. I packed my things in 10 minutes. No drama. No goodbyes. Just the sound of my keyboard being unplugged and the weight of his words circling my mind like a hawk. Outside, I sat in my car for nearly an hour, just staring at the steering wheel. I wasn't angry. I was focused. That phrase kept repeating itself. "You're a loser with a keyboard." What he didn't realize was that I built systems the company still used. I had admin access to tools no one else understood. I wasn't going to sabotage anything, but I knew exactly how much they'd bleed without me. And that was the start. The exact second I decided to stop being an employee and start becoming their worst decision. I went home to a studio apartment I could barely afford, sat on the mattress I used as a bed, and opened my laptop. I still had my freelance contacts. Old clients who liked my clean, efficient work. That night, I reached out to all of them. Not to beg, to propose. I'd build a full-scale operation. Infrastructure, automation, integrations. The kind of service they'd usually pay an agency 10 times more for. I didn't have a team, but I had skills, bandwidth, and obsession. Within 48 hours, I had 3 contracts. The same skills that got me fired were now putting money in my account. I didn't sleep much that first week. Coffee, code, client calls. I barely left the apartment. My world shrank to a glowing screen and the quiet thrill of proving them wrong. But the thing about silence is, it sharpens you. I wasn't dreaming about success. I was designing it, brick by brick, hour by hour. The revenge I wanted wasn't explosive. It was surgical. And deep down, I already knew how this story would end. Not with me knocking on their door, but with them knocking on mine. The first month blurred by like a fever dream. I worked from sunup to well past midnight, juggling clients across time zones. Some paid late, some didn't pay at all. But I didn't care. Every completed job meant experience. Every dollar earned meant distance from that conference room. I reinvested every cent. Didn't upgrade my apartment, didn't celebrate. I bought cloud storage, automation tools, and a second monitor from a pawn shop. My bank balance barely moved, but my back-end systems started to hum. I wasn't building a freelance gig. I was engineering an engine, one that wouldn't need me to run forever. I studied competitors at night, reverse engineered their services, and offered better versions for half the price. Quietly, I started stealing their clients. By the 3rd month, I had 4 contractors, remote, cheap, and fast. A dev in Poland, a copywriter in India, and 2 support guys from Brazil. They didn't know each other. They barely knew me. But I paid on time, gave clear instructions, and demanded speed. It worked. We became a whisper in the industry. Agile, discreet, reliable. I branded the operation as Ward Solutions, but didn't attach my face or story to it. Anonymity was leverage. Clients didn't need to know who I was, they just needed results, and I delivered. One startup boosted their launch by 400% using my tools. Another ditched their old provider and gave me a 12-month retainer. The same month, Nathan's company posted that they were looking for new automation consultants. I bookmarked the job post, not because I wanted it, but because I could already taste what was coming. I wasn't there yet, but I was closing in. I didn't just want to build something successful. I wanted to build something surgical, precise, something that would slice through the walls of my old company without them even realizing who was holding the blade. I started digging, looked into their client list, their vendors, their software stack. I knew what they were spending, I knew what wasn't working, and I knew exactly what to offer to every single one of their clients, for less. That's when I made my first strike. I approached one of their top 5 clients, an e-commerce platform I once helped onboard. They remembered me. I pitched a leaner, faster system with better integration. They hesitated at first, until I showed them their own data. I had studied it, restructured it, and visualized it better than anyone on their current team ever had. They didn't even negotiate, just signed and wired 60% up front. That one deal gave me enough capital to move into a real office. Nothing fancy, just quiet, clean, and mine. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was rebuilding. I felt like I was hunting. And then came the call that made me pause. One of Nathan's senior staff, someone who sat in the room the day I was fired, reached out to me on LinkedIn. He didn't recognize the company name, just said he'd heard good things and was looking for options outside the mess we're dealing with internally. I nearly laughed out loud. The cracks had started to show. Their infrastructure was lagging. Morale was low. Staff turnover had doubled. And the best part? They were blaming external pressure. Not once did they suspect I was building the pressure from the outside in. That call told me everything I needed to know. They were vulnerable. And I was ready. So I built a plan. Not a pitch. Not a campaign. An actual plan to buy the company. I wasn't a billionaire. I wasn't even rich. But I had traction, leverage, and a reputation they couldn't trace. I contacted a silent investor I'd met through a past client. Someone with money and ego, but no desire for the spotlight. We made a deal. I'd run the operation, he'd front the offer. My name wouldn't appear until the ink dried. I didn't want them to see me coming. I wanted their jaws to hit the floor when I stepped through the door with the papers in hand. Revenge wasn't the goal anymore. Ownership was. The first client I took from them sent a polite goodbye email to their team. The second didn't bother with pleasantries. By the time I secured the third, I knew I'd struck a nerve. Their website went offline for 3 hours that week. Their support queue tripled, and one of their long-term clients posted publicly about switching to a new firm with actual results. That firm was mine. I wasn't doing ads. I wasn't making noise. I was taking territory in silence. One win at a time, like pulling bricks out of a wall until the whole thing collapsed from the inside. The best part? Nathan still had no idea it was me, and I wasn't going to give him the luxury of preparing. I'd occasionally check in on him through industry events or interviews. He was still giving the same speeches, still calling himself a visionary, still treating people like disposable assets. He didn't see the shift happening beneath him. That's the thing about arrogance. It blinds you, makes you think power is permanent, but power is paper. And I had started the fire. My investor was getting excited. He kept asking when I'd pull the trigger. I told him soon. I didn't want to hit them when they were strong. I wanted to buy them at their lowest, when they were weak, bleeding, and desperate. We were close. One of their remaining clients reached out directly. No warning, no pitch. They just said, "We heard you saved Atlas Systems. Can you do the same for us?" I didn't answer immediately. I asked them to describe their pain points, to explain what had gone wrong. And when they did, I realized something delicious. Their issues weren't just technical. They were cultural. Nathan's toxicity had infected everything. Employees were quitting. Vendors were hesitating. No one trusted leadership anymore. All I had to do was stay steady and wait for the cracks to widen. 2 weeks later, they laid off 12 employees. One of them messaged me directly, a guy named Daniel. He had been on my team before, one of the few who treated me with basic respect. His message just said, "I get it now. If you're hiring, I'd work for you in a heartbeat." That hit harder than I expected. Because for the first time, I wasn't just dismantling a company. I was building something people actually wanted to be part of. I brought Daniel on, gave him a better salary and more autonomy than he'd ever had. The day he joined, he sent a Slack message that made my whole team laugh. "Today, I escaped the dungeon." The deal was almost ready. My investor had lawyers running due diligence. I kept my name off the paperwork, staying in the shadows, but I had a folder on my desktop labeled "Welcome Back PDF," a script I'd written for the exact moment I'd walk back into that building. I wasn't just buying the company. I was reclaiming the airspace where they tried to suffocate me. One morning, I got a text from my investor. He's willing to sell. Down 47% in valuation. Wants out. My hands shook for the first time in months. This was it. This was the moment I'd been building toward. No speeches, no drama, just one contract, and silence sharp enough to cut. I didn't tell anyone on my team what I was planning. Not yet. But I did one thing. I booked a single meeting. Friday, 9 a.m., with Nathan. No context, no subject line, just my name. I used a burner account so he wouldn't recognize it. I wanted him to walk into that room thinking it was just another problem to delegate, just another client pitch, just another loser with a keyboard. And I wanted to see the exact second he realized. This time, the keyboard wrote the terms. I arrived 15 minutes early. Not because I was nervous, but because I wanted him to walk in last. I sat at the end of the long conference table, the same one where I'd been humiliated half a year earlier. Everything looked the same. The cheap modern art, the fake succulents, the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. Except now, I was the one waiting. I had the folder in front of me, resting on the glass. Acquisition terms, signed and final. My name wasn't on the cover, but I knew it would be the only thing Nathan would remember after this meeting. When he walked in, his expression shifted instantly. Brows furrowed, smile faltered. "Do I know you?" he asked, head tilting. "You should," I said. "But don't worry. You will." He sat down slowly, scanning me, probably running through every ex-employee he'd dismissed, every intern he'd belittled. I didn't fill the silence. I just watched him sink into it. "So, what's this about?" he finally asked. I slid the folder across the table. He opened it. His eyes moved fast at first, then slower, page after page. Silence thickened like fog. I could see the moment it clicked. His jaw tightened. The tips of his fingers pressed against the paper. "Ward Solutions?" he muttered. "You—" I nodded once. "Me." His mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, Nathan looked like a man out of control, and I hadn't raised my voice once. "I don't understand," he finally said. "You were, what, one of the tech guys?" I almost smiled. Almost. "The loser with the keyboard," I reminded him. He winced. Whether he remembered the line or not didn't matter. I remembered. And I wasn't here for validation. I was here to finalize the transfer. "I own this now, not just the systems, not just the clients, the company. You have 72 hours to clear your office. And before you ask, yes, the board already signed off." I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The silence between us said more than any victory speech ever could. He leaned back like the wind had been knocked out of him. "You planned this?" he asked. "No," I replied. "You did. The day you fired me." He stood up, pacing now. "This company's failing. You're buying a sinking ship." I shrugged. "Then you should thank me for taking it off your hands." He looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew it was over. The numbers were on the table. The terms were airtight. There was no way out. All he had left was pride, and that was crumbling fast. "You don't have what it takes to run this place," he spat. I stood too, adjusting my coat. "Maybe not, but I don't need to. I already rebuilt the clients. I already have the team. This place? It's just the trophy." He didn't respond, just stared at the table like it might save him, and I walked out. I didn't look back. The elevator ride down felt slower than usual, but my mind was clear. No anger, no adrenaline, just peace. A quiet, perfect kind of closure. Outside, the air was cold, crisp. I slid into the back seat of my town car, gave my assistant a nod, and leaned back. Nathan's words would echo in that building for years, but they wouldn't matter anymore. Because the guy he called a loser? He wasn't just back. He was the new owner of everything that man ever built. Taking over wasn't about walking in and flipping tables. That's not how real power moves. I returned to the office on Monday, dressed in black, calm as ever. No announcement, no press release. Just a quiet transition email that went out to staff. Please welcome our new executive partner, effective immediately. I walked through the halls like a shadow no one noticed, until they did. One by one, eyes widened. Former co-workers whispering behind screens, their faces twisting. As they connected dots, some stared in disbelief. Others avoided eye contact completely. No one congratulated me, and I didn't expect them to. I was the ghost they thought they buried, walking back in as their boss. I called for a staff meeting. Not all hands, just the department leads. The same ones who watched me get humiliated 6 months earlier and said nothing. I stood at the front of the same conference room, hands folded, voice steady. Some of you remember me, I said. Some of you pretended not to. Dead silence. I'm not here to punish anyone. I'm here to rebuild what you all let fall apart. I watched them squirm. One tried to speak. I raised a hand. I'm not asking for trust. I'm giving you a choice. Stay and perform, or leave quietly. But the days of unchecked arrogance are over. I didn't raise my voice once, but I saw fear ripple through the room. I started implementing changes immediately. Cut the bloated departments, brought in my own leadership from Ward Solutions, merged the 2 operations without skipping a beat. What was once their upper management now had to report to people half their age, people who respected work, not titles. The culture began to shift. Results spoke louder than legacy. No more favoritism. No more Nathan said. Nathan was gone. His office reassigned. Nameplate tossed. I didn't even need to fire most of his loyalists. They left on their own, unable to stomach answering to someone they once ignored. Poetic, really. A week later, I was walking through the break room when one of the newer interns stopped me. Are you the Elias? He asked, hesitating. From Ward. I nodded. He looked stunned. That's insane, he whispered. They said you were just some back-end guy, but you. I smiled. I still am, I said, tapping my temple. Back-end guys run everything. People just don't realize it until they're replaced. He laughed nervously. But I wasn't joking. That's the part no one got. The quiet ones, the focused ones. We're the ones you should fear. Because while they mock you, you're writing the code that controls their future. I didn't reach out to Nathan. Didn't need to. He knew. I'd made my statement not with words, but with ownership, structure, and results. Revenge wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about efficiency, about restoring value where ego had drained it. I rebuilt his house, but on my terms. Brick by brick, stripped of his fingerprints. And the best part? I never had to yell. I never had to break anything. I just walked in, claimed what was mine, and let the silence speak for me. I was in my new office, Nathan's old office technically, when she walked in. Karen, HR manager. She had been the one who handed me the exit packet that day. The one who looked me in the eye and said, "We wish you the best." Like I was, a burden being politely removed. She stood in the doorway, unsure whether to knock. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded. She sat across from me, her shoulders tighter than I remembered. "Look," she began. "I just want to understand. Why come back? Why buy this place?" I leaned back in the chair, watching her squirm. "Is that a real question?" I asked. "Or just guilt trying to wear curiosity as a disguise?" She frowned. "You were always quiet," she said. "But I never thought you were capable of something like this." I almost laughed. "Capable of what? Success?" Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the clean desk, the minimalist decor. Everything stripped of Nathan's ego. "No, I mean, this level of precision. Ruthlessness." That word made me pause. "Ruthless?" I repeated. "You all sat in silence while I was humiliated, fired, discarded like furniture. And you call me ruthless for returning as the owner?" Her face flushed. "It wasn't personal," she began. I cut her off. "It was never not personal. You just didn't think I mattered enough to be remembered. She sat there, quiet. I let the silence stretch. People underestimate what silence can do. It rattles those who are used to control. You didn't come here to understand, I said. You came here hoping I'd offer some kind of forgiveness. Some neat closure so you can sleep better. She looked away, confirming everything. The truth is, I continued, you weren't the villain. But you weren't innocent either. You were just convenient. And that's exactly what I stopped being. I could see it land. That line. That realization. She'd never see me the same way again, and that was the point. After a long pause, she finally stood up. So what now? She asked, eyes distant. Now, I replied. Now you either do your job or you don't. But don't expect the old rules to apply. I don't play by them anymore. She gave me a hesitant nod and walked out. No apologies, no tears. Just quiet defeat. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it. I simply accepted it. That was the real evolution. Not the money, not the power, but the clarity. I no longer craved an apology from anyone. I just needed them to see what they lost when they looked down on me. I sat alone for a while after she left, watching the city through the office window. Cars moved like data streams. People passed like irrelevant lines of code. I realized I'd spent so much time chasing this moment, and yet, here I was, completely still. Not satisfied, not proud, just clear. And that was the most dangerous version of me there could ever be. The one who had nothing left to prove. Only systems to build, only empires to automate, only silence to weaponize. They never saw the shift happen. One day I was invisible, the quiet guy behind the code. The next, I was the man signing their paychecks. But I didn't throw parties. I didn't post about it. I didn't need fireworks to feel the impact. The real satisfaction came from watching the silence spread, from seeing people whisper my name like it was a ghost story, from knowing the same people who called me weak now had my systems running their entire operations. I didn't take Nathan's old desk. I had it removed. Didn't want anything that carried his scent. I built something new, clean, cold, controlled. Ran the company for a year, silently turning it into a streamlined, profitable machine. Then I sold it, cashed out, moved on. Not because I was done, but because I'd proved what I needed to. To them, to me. I used the money to start 3 new ventures, all digital, all faceless, all running on frameworks I designed in that tiny apartment, 6 months after being fired. The irony? Some of my former coworkers ended up applying to work for those companies. They never knew I was behind them. I never told them. That was the point. Nathan? Last I heard, he moved out of state, tried to start something on his own. It tanked. Investors didn't trust him. Former clients refused his calls. He tried to rebrand, but people remembered. That's the thing about reputation. Once it cracks, it echoes. I never contacted him, never answered his emails. He sent 3, actually. The last one just said, "Was it worth it?" I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because if he had to ask that question, he already knew the answer. People always expect revenge to be loud, explosive, emotional. But that's not how it works for people like me. Real revenge is subtle, measured, efficient. It looks like calm emails and silent meetings. It sounds like paper being signed in a quiet room. It feels like walking past someone who once broke you, and not even flinching. That's the kind of revenge that lasts. The kind they never forget. The kind that doesn't need a punchline. Just a pause. And the look on their face when they realized the story didn't end when they walked away. It started. I was called a loser with a keyboard. But keyboards write futures. They build worlds. They control the flow of everything these people thought they owned. I didn't get revenge with fire. I got it with logic, structure, and silence. And now, when someone underestimates me, I don't argue. I don't explain. I just smile. Because the quiet ones, we don't shout. We rewrite the script, and when the final scene plays out, the only sound left is their disbelief, and my footsteps walking away.